Hello, welcome to the Vegan Life Podcast. I'm Jacob. I thought I'd sort of say hello properly. I kind of jump into the thing sometimes. You know, maybe I should just take a breath and say, and maybe that's the point if we're doing Ayurveda stuff this time. You know, we should just take a moment. I will say, the best thing I've been eating lately is a yotam ottolenghi recipe, and it's well worth you checking it out. This isn't a sponsorship thing, by the way. I know I've done some of those. This is literally me just telling you what's really nice that I had to eat the other day. It's a yotam ottolenghi recipe for miso and peanut butter chickpea salad. He doesn't know I'm saying this, but it's on his website. I'm just saying, if that's what you wanted to do. Anyway, let's crack on with some actual content. And I, as you can imagine, I'm a bit of an expert when it comes to Ayurveda. That's my jam. Oh boy. Radhi Devlukia-Shetty is a plant-based recipe developer, fitness and well-being enthusiast who shares lifestyle with her highly engaged global community. You can expect to see everything from Radhi's meditation mornings to daily natural skincare rituals, LBT workouts. And what's an LBT workout?
Legs, bums and tums.
Oh, sure. Now I see why you abbreviated it. And mouth-watering recipes. Legs, bums and tums. Radhi was born and raised in London, where she trained as a dietitian and currently splits her time between London and Los Angeles. I was just asking you how your day was because you very graciously asked me how mine was, and I explained it was mainly just crying. And you said you're preparing a cookbook.
I am. I'm actually nearing the end of the process of creating the recipes. So for the last couple of months, I've just been in the kitchen creating 9 to 6, 9 to 8, just trying to make as many recipes as I can in the time that I'm here. And I'm near the end of it. I've done over 100. There's going to be about 150. So I'm nearly there. Desserts are happening at the end of this week. So I'm going to be in sugar coma for a while.
That's perfect if you need any help. I feel like writing a cookbook is one of those things that I suspect a lot of people say to you, oh, I'd love to spend all my time experimenting in the kitchen without knowing what it really entails.
Oh my gosh, it is a lot of work. But you know what? Doing something that you love, I love food. I love creating. I love thinking about, like I map out the recipes on paper before I end up going into the kitchen. And it's so wonderful to pair spices with different flavors. And I actually really enjoy it. It's just when there's time pressure put onto it, where sometimes it kind of sucks the joy out of it. Yeah. But no, I'm really grateful to be able to do this. It's been such a wonderful learning experience for me. Everything
becomes less fun with the time pressure. I can't think of anything that's good with the time pressure.
No, me neither.
Okay, so we're talking about Ayurvedic food.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can tell just in the way I said it that this is not a specialty subject for me. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Ayurveda before we get into the food and stuff?
Yeah, so Ayurveda is, oh my goodness, more than
I can't even pronounce it, so carry on.
No, you said it. It's more than a 5,000-year-old health science. It originated in India, and it's known to be the oldest health science that's existed to time. And it is just phenomenal. I fell in love with it. Ayur means life and Veda means knowledge. It's all about how to harmonize our body to nature and everything around us in order to live an optimal life. So whether it's through food, our environment, our lifestyle, our behavior, our exercise, how do we optimize it to our own specific body? And that's why I really love Ayurveda, because it's so specific to the person. It's not one medicine heals all. It's no, what is your body? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. I was enthralled. Go on.
It's all about the specific person. We're all so individual, so it doesn't really make sense to have the same medicine, the same foods for the same person. And so it's all about you understanding your body better and understanding the environment you're in and how to create an optimal living environment for yourself. And that's essentially it. And then learning more about the foods and the herbs and all the different things that can either enhance it or maybe create havoc in the body, and just knowing the difference between the two.
That's amazing, because you talk about sort of understanding your own body and stuff. I very often glimpse myself naked in the mirror and think, well, I don't understand that. I don't understand any of that. Extraordinary. So I'm guessing you say sort of everyone's an individual. What are those individualities? Do you know what I mean? Like, are there different types of people, or is it very like as granular as down to each individual person?
Well, there's different ways of diagnosing it. So in Ayurveda, it says that there's a Prakruti and a Vikruti. So the Prakruti is something that you are born with. It's your original constitution that you almost like your genetic DNA, what you're born with, that is your constitution. And in Ayurveda, it works in elements. So in Ayurveda, it believes that our whole body, the whole ecosystem, everything is based around the 5 elements: earth, ether, fire, water, and air. And so the constitution, which is almost like our Ayurvedic DNA, is all based around how much of each element you have in your body. And according to that, there are 3 main types. There's Kapha, Pitta, and Vata. So Kapha is earth and water, Vata is air and ether, and Pitta is fire and water. And so really the way that if you think about what all those elements represent and the qualities of them, that's essentially what we're saying that the bodies are made up of. So water would be flowing and cool, and earth would be quite heavy and dense, and fire would be hot and fiery personality. And so really if you think about what the elements are and what they represent, that's similar to what they mean and how they transpire in the body too.
Okay, I think I'm mainly earth and mainly clay, like really heavy, quite dense.
Clay.
No, okay. What are you, and how do you find out?
Yes. So the way that you find out, so there's different ways. You could usually, so it can be physical characteristics. So there are lots of quizzes you can take online for anybody who wants to take them. I have one specific I can share with you that I really like. It goes into quite a good amount of depth. So first of all, it's your physical attributes. And actually, once you know them, you can kind of see people and you can tell what constitution they are, which is really cool. So depending on the shapes of their nose, the how big their eyes are, how long their fingernails are or fingertips are, their limbs, and then it goes down to the internal. So your digestion, your mindset, how you react to things, what your bowel movements are like. So all of those things would end up dictating whether all of that all together would be your constitution. And then you have to, and so there's your original, and then there's what you are right now. So because of our environment and everything that we come across and everything that comes into our senses, our constitution ends up adapting and changing. And so usually when we're out of balance, get different, that's when we end up getting diseases or different symptoms in our body. And that's called the Vikruti. So that is, what am I right now in this state, in this environment, what's out of balance? And that's usually what we're working on at the time to get back to the original.
So it's almost like a nature nurture thing.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, without going into too much detail about my bowel movements, I mean, I don't know what constitutes too much. I mean, I could read you my diary. No. So you say you could go on then. Look, there's my nose.
Yes.
What's your snap judgment? What am I? Go on. What am I?
That's a good question. Yeah. So sharp features, for example, like you've got quite a sharp nose. And I would say in terms of, I can't really tell what the rest of your body's like, but from your features, I feel like you'd be a Pitta. Yeah. So from your from your features, especially on your face, I feel like you'd be a Pitta. And body type, are you someone who tends to do you put on weight quite easily or lose weight quite easily, or are you quite stable generally?
I can put on weight very easily.
I feel like you'd be probably more of like a Pitta Vata body.
Okay.
That would be my guess. So
now
Pitta is
that
Pitta is sharp. You generally have like a Brad Pitta.
No.
Brad Pitta. That's exactly it. Although I think Brad Pitt might be a Pitta as well from his sharp features.
Sure.
So yes, when you think about Pitta features, generally they have like very sturdy, stable bodies, but in terms of features, it's very sharp. So sharp, angular faces, sharp, angular jawline, a sharp nose, quite piercing eyes, and generally in terms of like body like fingers and everything like that, they can be quite average. Whereas the Kapha, but the Vata tends to be very slim, slender, long fingers, almost like you could imagine the extreme version would be a very tall, slim person that's quite bony. But Pittas would be an average sized body, quite good build, athletic-y build. And then a kapha would be where it's not like, and it's not, I love clarifying this because I think it's important. It's not saying someone's skinny or fat or overweight. It's not that at all. It's completely to do with bone structure and like the density of your body. So a kapha would be have maybe more density to them. It's got a lot more structure. Have a lot more curves to them. But that doesn't mean, a lot of people get mistaken. They're like, oh, because I'm overweight, I must be a kapha. That's not true at all. It's all to do with the structure of your body.
Okay. Average. I'll take that.
Average, average in like the best way possible. Like normal in like the best way possible.
I mean, fingers like Chantenay carrots. Hopeless.
Yeah,
so,
perfect.
Well, look, lots of people are very excited about this. We've had lots of questions emailed to us. Thanks, everybody, for these. And Shan has emailed. She says, I'm really interested in this subject. I went on a course a few years back before I was vegan, and I found out that my dosha is Pitta. Welcome on board. I must admit, I don't live an Ayurveda lifestyle. However, I'm really interested in hearing more about it. What kind of food should I be eating for Pitta? I'm guessing not pita bread. Thank you.
Good question. So, like we said, pittas are predominantly fire and water. That's what the elements that they have higher in their body. And so if you think about, and usually the imbalance comes from the fire aspect. Now, if you think about fire, it's intense, it's hot, it's passionate. That's the qualities of fire. And so the imbalance usually comes with things like acid reflux or too much heat in the body, or it can be rashes on your skin. Everything to do with like fire within your body comes from that. And so what is usually recommended for a Pitta diet is not having too much spice. By spice I mean more chili rather than the spices. So not too much heat, not too much salt, and not too much sour. So those are the three areas that you would ideally not minimize, but keep in mind, if you feel those imbalances coming along, those are the things that you're more likely to react to. And so that would be things like chilies, alcohol, citrus fruits, any spices that feel heating to the body as well. And then what you should be eating are more sweet tasting foods. So in Ayurveda, there's 6 different tastes. There's sweet, sour, salty, pungent, astringent, and bitter. That is what all of your food is made up of. And they say that when you have a meal prepared with all 6 tastes included within the dish, that is when you feel that that is when your body and your taste buds feel most satisfied. And so actually, even when I'm creating recipes, I try to create it with all 6 of those tastes within the meal, whether it's subtle through spices or through the vegetables you're using or through the herbs you're using. And so for pittas, you should be increasing the sweet taste. So that doesn't mean you need to be eating lots of chocolate. That just means having the naturally sweet food. So for example, in vegetables, that would be things like squashes, sweet potato. A lot of the grains are considered sweeter. Like if you taste basmati rice, it has like a starchy sweetness to it. Root vegetables. If you're having milk, then obviously like if you're dairy free, then almond milk and oat milks. And it's very anti-inflammatory. It pacifies the heat. So that specific taste quality ends up satisfying, ends up reducing the fire within your body. And it's very grounding and nourishing as well. Nice. And in terms of oils, because people cook with oil so much, the best ones for pittas, I'd say, are probably sunflower oil, coconut oil, and olive oil. Those are the best ones for you to cook with that don't increase the heat too much. And then in herbs, I always like to adjust. I always like to tell people that the easiest way to kind of balance yourself is through herbs and spices. So the best cooling herbs are things like cilantro or coriander, mint, and fennel. So those are the ones I would recommend for a pitta body. Very elegantly transatlantic. I know. Cilantro.
Yeah, I lived in the States for a couple of years, and it's you have to
hard
get
to
bilingual.
over.
Yeah, definitely. That's fascinating. I mean, people are probably, they understand what salty and sweet and sour might be, but can you talk a bit more about astringent? Because that's not one of the ones that people talk about quite so much.
Yes. So astringent, how's best to describe it? Okay, so astringent are the things which,
like banana peel.
Sometimes when you... Yes. Right. When you put things in your mouth and they kind of have this dry, they leave like a dryness in your mouth. Mm-hmm. That is essentially what the astringent taste is. Exactly that. Like for example, when you maybe have a bit of the outside of the pineapple and it leaves that kind of like dryness in your mouth, or the banana peel. that is essentially the quality. So when you think about foods that are like that, I would say it is like bitter greens. They have astringent properties, but so do a lot of the herbs like oregano. They kind of have that. It's almost it's a mix between like bitter and drying to the mouth.
Sure.
Those
yeah.
type of spices we have. So yes, that's astringent.
Nice.
And then bitter we spoke about. Yeah, bitter's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, well, Sean, as a fellow pitter, thanks for your question. Jessica says, I suffer from bad bloating after I eat my meals. I never know what bloating means. I feel
it's
like,
when your stomach just suddenly expands, and it's not because you've suddenly put on lots of weight. It's because you've just got air filled.
Does it mean, you need to do lots of blow-offs? Yeah, okay. I
kind of feel like, yes, it's trapped air.
We're not casting any aspersions to Jessica or her lifestyle. But anyway, okay, fine, bloating. My main diet is spicy foods, normally curry with rice or vegetables with noodles. My body shape isn't that big, but I bloat quite a lot. So I'd love to hear, don't we all? So I would love to hear what your experts recommend. Thank you, Jessica. I'm sure, I'm sure you're extremely fragrant all the time. But spicy foods and bloating.
Okay, so I would say, so usually bloating is a sign of digestive imbalance in your stomach. Your food is basically not being digested properly when that happens. So if you think about your stomach as like a pressure cooker. So if you put in a lot of food into your stomach and your digestion is weak, the food is not there's not enough digestive enzymes produced to break down the food. When the food sits in your stomach for too long, it ferments, it produces gases, and that leads to bloating. And so really what you need to work on is strengthening your digestion and also thinking about the amounts and what you're combining together. So those are the three things. One is strengthening your digestion. The second is thinking about the quantities of what you're eating. Is it overloading your digestive system? And the third one is food combinations. A lot of food combinations can cause a havoc to your system. And fourthly would be spices. So I'm going to tell you what I would do to help resolve it. And then we'll go into maybe detail if we can. In terms of the spices that I recommend for things like this is cumin, coriander, fennel, black pepper, and ginger. Those are the spices which are so great for bloating, for gas, for digestive discomfort. And usually what I recommend is if you know that you get bloated regularly, have a little bit of a sprinkle of black pepper in hot water just before you eat, maybe like 15 minutes before you eat. Have a little sip of it. It only needs to be like half a cup, but it really helps with igniting your digestion. So it's almost like prepping your digestion ready for the food that's about to arrive. So that, and then using those other spices that I mentioned in your food, using things like coriander, cumin, and fennel. The combination, the CCF, coriander, cumin, and fennel, is known to be like the queen of Ayurvedic spice blends. It helps with purifying your blood, detoxification, digestive issues. So I actually keep a blend of that. I blend it all up and I just use teaspoons of it within the food that I'm cooking. And that really helps with any food that's a little bit difficult to digest. Yeah.
This sort of leads on to Lauren's question, which was, what foods should I be focusing on for my digestion? And can I have some gut healthy recipes, please? So we might as well keep going with that.
Yeah, let me keep going with that. So a few tips on how to keep your digestive system healthy. One would be, again, the spices I recommended. I usually start my morning having the seeds of coriander, cumin, and fennel, 1 teaspoon each in hot water, and drinking that. You can even leave that in the bottle of a big bottle that you drink during the day and keep refilling it and drinking the water that comes from that. The other thing is that's really important. And, there are different thoughts depending on what type of health system you believe in. But in Ayurveda, it talks about making sure you have really good gaps between your meals, not snacking and grazing throughout the day, because you need to allow your digestion to fully digest the food that's in there before you add more in. Because imagine a pressure cooker where you've already got the cooked rice and then you add uncooked rice on top. It's so there's never going to be a time when the rices are cooked at the same time. And so really you need a minimum of 3-hour gap between your meals. So that means you have to make sure that you're eating the right amount at your meal times to not obviously get hungry throughout the rest of the 3 hours. But having that 3-hour gap is really important. And also, if your digestive system feels a little bit weak, making sure that you're having lighter foods that are a little bit more simple, less processed. Really, the key to it is making sure you're eating seasonally as much as possible, making sure that you're not complicating the meals too much. If you're having vegetables, allow them to shine through. If you're having grains, allow them to shine through. We don't need to overload it with so many sauces and all the things which are processed we don't need. Like learn to use spices. They're going to be your best friend through this, especially for your digestion. So really experiment with different spices. They help with, I honestly think of my spice box as my Under Armour of good health, because I've grown up on spices. Being Indian, that's been my go-to for whenever I've had a cough or a cold or indigestion. Spices are what can really help your body to stay optimal. So definitely add a whole lot of spices into your diet.
Amazing.
And in terms of foods for your digestion, the one thing I would recommend is a khichdi cleanse. So khichdi is basically a mixture of lentils, rice, and vegetables and spices. So it's basically like a hot pot but the mixture together. A lot of people do, instead of doing like fast and juice cleanses, basmati rice, mung lentils, vegetables, and spices.
What kind of vegetables?
So vegetables that don't feel like they're going to obviously like produce gas and things. So things like courgettes, carrots, squash, sweet potatoes, celery. All the vegetables which feel a little bit more neutral rather than the broccolis, the cauliflowers, the cruciferous vegetables maybe you would stay away from. Okay. And essentially, if you think about it, when you're cooking all these vegetables together, all these things together, they're all almost cooked before they come into your body. And they've all got to know each other before it comes into your body. So when it comes into your body, it's a lot easier to digest. And obviously the spices help as well. But a lot of people do a khichdi cleanse for like 5 days, and all they eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner is that khichdi. And it really helps to give your digestive system a bit of a break, to re-strengthen, and then you can go back to food. And this is so much nicer than sometimes doing a juice cleanse where you feel hungry all the time.
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, that sounds delicious. I would
eat
that
anyway. It's so yummy. It's so yummy.
And I'm guessing that there's going to be a recipe for that in your book.
Oh, I've got, and in my book and on my website, I have a whole khichdi cleanse blog post that I've done. Okay. So if anybody wants to check that out, then they definitely can. And I think I've got a YouTube video on it as well, actually. Okay.
Well, everyone should go and get a piece of paper and a pencil, because you never know when you might want to wrap up a pencil. No, because we'll give out all of that information at the end. Okay, Ashti says, can I have some detox soups, please? Well, we kind of just had one. Summer's coming up and I would love to start eating more healthy foods.
Oh, yeah. And, the khichdi definitely. And then I would say, if you are making soups, again, like I really believe in stripping things back to being simple. So if you're having a broccoli soup, just have a broccoli soup. You don't need to mix too many things together. And I find with vegetables, they actually have so much flavor in them. The way that you cook them in different ways, like just use the vegetables that are in season, like asparagus soup. Just asparagus on its own without anything else has so much flavor. So if you're looking for healthy, delicious meals, I would just say try each vegetable at a time and just create new flavors with it using different spices.
That sounds like a top tip. I mean, my favorite soup recipe is I think it's a Nigella recipe. It's a pea soup, and it's literally just boiling water with a little bit of vegetable stock and some frozen peas, and then you just blend it, and that's it.
And the peas just are so delicious. That's the thing, and I feel like that sounds like a really nice summer. Add a bit of mint in there, and you've got a really beautiful summer soup.
Yeah. Okay. Now then. Let's do Ben's question. Go on. Yes.
And if anybody wants recipes, there's a really good book called What to Eat for How You Feel. It's an Ayurvedic cookbook by, it's one of my friends. Her name's Divya. She was actually my teacher in Ayurveda. And it's just such a great book to understand Ayurveda well, the basics of it, but also have some delicious, wonderful recipes. So if anybody's looking for a book recommendation, I would definitely recommend that.
There you go. While we wait for yours. Just while we wait.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Ben says, what are good foods for me to eat if I suffer from acid reflux, and what foods should I be avoiding?
So you should, acid reflux, again, it's pitta related. So it's too much heat in the body. And so you're looking for alkaline foods. There's so many lists on Google that you can get of all the foods that are considered alkaline versus acidic foods. So definitely trying to, if you're suffering from bad acid reflux, I would really recommend for a certain period of time to allow your gut to rest, to just stick with alkaline foods. And then avoiding things like citrus stuff, like I said, spicy foods, extra oily foods. Oil, like deep fried foods, increase acid reflux tremendously. So avoiding deep fried foods. And then again, if you're someone who does like chips with vinegar on top, and like you're adding the sour with the fried foods, just avoid all of that for now.
Yeah, and a couple of AA batteries on top.
Yeah, yes, sure, exactly.
Yeah.
And then if you do eat nuts and seeds, then make sure you soak them, and even dried fruits. When you soak, and that's the same with beans, lentils, pulses, especially obviously when they come dried, soaking them actually takes out the phytates, which is what usually causes flatulence in the body, but also causes acid in the body. So soaking your nuts before you eat them is much better for you. Why you know it?
That's no reason. Well, that's a top tip, though. That's a top tip.
Yes.
Never thought of that. That's brilliant. Inner Child Yoga School, I don't think that's their real name, says,
no,
I'd love to know.
Sure.
I'd love to know where I can find lots of kapha balancing recipes. Or maybe
the book I recommended, and the book I recommended, What to Eat for How You Feel. And then honestly, there are just so many like Google is going to be your best friend. There are so many wonderful places. I think there's a place called Joyful Belly, which does really good, simple Ayurvedic recipes, and specific to the doshas as well. And but yeah, for kapha, what you're looking for is light, because if you think about kapha as earth and water, stodgy, stagnant. So what you're trying to do in your body is create lightness and energy, like energizing things. So you actually need the things like chilies and very like spicy foods, and you need things which are a lot lighter. So having things which are not so sweet potatoes and the heavier root vegetables is something you should probably have less of. But having things like asparagus and peas and green. What are they called? Like the sauteed greens. Those are all the lighter vegetables, are things that you should steer towards.
Awesome. There you go. We've got one last question. And this is from Lisa, who says, Jake, you are so fun to listen to. Yeah, but try living with me. I've been vegan for I've been vegan for 2 months and I'm all in. Yes, Lisa. Great. We'd love to hear about vegan retreats and vegan vacation spots, perhaps with yoga and or vegan cooking classes. Well, I want to do that. That sounds brilliant. Do you do any of those? Have you done any of those? Do you host any of those?
So no, but I know people who do. And let me tell you, Costa Rica is the place to go for it.
Right.
They do amazing. And if you want, I can send you some of the links to some of my friends who run retreats like that. But there's a couple called Nimai and Bianca. They're like vegan bodybuilders, but they also do amazing retreats. They go away on retreats and they take people there to Costa Rica. And it's just the best place, just fresh food, vegan food, yoga, meditation. Oh, and also even better than that, or not better, but just different. There's a couple called Diana and Vera, and they're two of my friends, and they take people to India for an amazing yoga teacher training, yoga retreat in the most beautiful space called the Eco Village. I go there every December, and it is the most wonderful retreat. A mix of spirituality, good, delicious vegan vegetarian food, and greenery, and just a whole rejuvenation experience. So I'll share them with you if you want to share them with your listeners. That
would be great. We'll stick them on the website. I gotta say, I miss India. I went there years ago, and a bit of me is still there. I remember seeing there were like a bunch of. I went to a market, and there were a bunch of hippies on the beach, sort of limbs flailing, like sort of in their, I don't know, late 50s, and you could see they'd gone out there maybe 25 years before and just never gone home. And I kind of, a little bit of me was like, I want to do that. I wish
it is just so magical. If you're able to see past, obviously, what like the city aspect of it, that can be quite difficult to take in. But when you go into the villages and you experience the depth of India, it's just so magical, and it's so beautiful and vibrant and just full of life. Yeah, I love India so much.
The market I went to was just fantastic. There were all these kind of spices and dyes and fabrics and stuff, and the color of it was just amazing. And what I saw there that I'll never forget was Lucy Benjamin and Phil Mitchell off of EastEnders, whose sole purchase appeared to be 200 fags. Still, each to their own. It's been wonderful to learn about this stuff. It's not something I knew anything at all about. Well, it's
lovely to share it with you.
It's been wonderful. Thank you. Please come again. If people want to find out more about you and your imminent cookbook, where should they go? How can they find you?
So I'm most active on Instagram as Radhi Devlukia, and then I also have a website that's radhidevlukia.co, where I have recipes on there, blog posts about my spiritual journey and everything that I randomly think about. And those are the two main places.
Amazing. I will say your Instagram is well worth checking out, if only for your fabulous Lord of the Rings style perspective bending video of
also YouTube. I have a YouTube channel where I have lots of recipes on there too. So
okay, well,
all of those three.
Go get stuck in.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Quick reminder that we've got Vegan Life Live coming up very, very soon. If you want tickets, why don't you go to veganlifemag.com where you can get tickets and stuff. I'm going to be there. I don't know if that's an enticement to come or perhaps more of a dissuasion.
Sure.
But I will be there, and I hope I'll see you. We'll be recording a live edition of the podcast with Omari McQueen. In the meantime, from me, Jake, thanks very much for listening, and goodbye. This has been a Swanburst Media production.